Lon, in the first segment there, you talked about one of the things that got you interested in this is you had your own experience in sighting, and that definitely piqued my interest. Can you tell me what your experience was?
Well, this happened in the fall of 1988. I had met up with an old friend that I had gone into Boy Scouts with when I was a kid. So we happened to run into each other, and he was actually a scoutmaster then. And he asked me about something that was going on in the old Camp Canewago campground. And he was telling me that a lot of the kids and their troops and such were being run out of the woods near the campground because of these unknown screams. The kids were freaking out. They were packing up and leaving. So he said he and a friend were going up to the campground that next weekend. He asked if I wanted to tag along. So I said, sure. So the next weekend. And you said unknown screams, so you all of a sudden were in? That seems terrifying. Oh, yeah. I wanted to know what that was.
Yeah, all right.
So, horror movie character logic.
So we got to the camp, the camp, and then we met up and hiked into the woods, and we set up camp along the Canewago Creek. So the first night was pretty uneventful. We each of us had a tent. We had 3 tents, and though we did hear something walking around in the campsite, though I thought it was probably one of those guys getting up to use the latrine or such, so I didn't really know. But we mentioned it the next morning, so it was a nice day, so we got up and had breakfast and started hiking around the woods and such, and we were out most of the day. Pretty thick woods, too. That time of year is a lot of underbrush. So, a lot of wildlife as well. So we got back to the campsite about 6 o'clock in the evening, and we started getting something to eat, sitting around the fire, talking. We were talking about football. And, off and on, I would get up and stretch my legs and walk around. So, about 11 o'clock, all of a sudden this loud scream came from the west, and it was coming in and out. I thought at first it was probably an owl or maybe an eagle, but I didn't know. So it screamed again, and this thing sounded like a child screaming. And it had gotten closer, then it kind of faded out again. So we got up and walked around the campsite. We didn't see anything, so we sat back down and started talking some more, trying to figure out what it was that we heard screaming. Well, anyway, I guess around 12:30, 1 o'clock, I got up again to stretch my legs, and I walked over by the trail along the creek, and I just had this sense that something was watching us. So I went back to the campfire, and I told those guys, I want to get up and just walk along the trail a bit, see if we see anything out, So they said, yeah. So we got up and, we didn't walk more than 50 foot away from the campsite. And to the right of us in the creek, and the creek was shallow at this time, and the moonlight was really, really good that night. We saw this being, this whatever, standing in the middle of the creek. It was dark, and it had these red eyes. And by the time we got the flashlights on this thing, it just whooshed up into the air. It jettisoned like a rocket. And a couple seconds later, we heard it screaming, and as it flew away from us and, faded out. So I guess we freaked out a bit. We got back to the campsite. My buddy, he didn't want to stay. He wanted to go up the administration building and spend the night.
I don't blame him.
The other guy asked, and the other guy was pretty calm. He said, did you notice anything on its back? Which I did, because it kind of looked like there were folded wings on its back. But, I never saw any wings unfurl. And, I said, yeah, I did notice it. And of course, we all noticed the red eyes. So they went up, the other two guys went up to the administration building and spent the night up there. I wanted to see what was going on, so I stayed around the campsite. But, nothing else happened that night, so I really didn't get a look at it beyond that. Though, when I wrote about this about 20 years later on my blog, I got a comment from a guy who lived at Dick's Dam, which was upstream from the location. And he was telling me he's heard these screams for years. He never knew what it was. And not long after that, I guess about a month after, I got another email from a scout leader who told me, he said, we were at Camp Canewago not long ago, and the boys in my troop came running back one early evening and swore up and down that there was a dragon, a 6-foot tall dragon, standing in the trail, not far from where we were camped at. And they said it was, it looked like it had feathers and a tail, but they said it was a dragon. Of course he thought they were nuts, or they were just playing games with him. So he kind of dismissed it. He didn't even bother going up to look, see what was going on. Nothing else had happened the rest of the weekend for them. So, but when he saw what I had written, well, then he had second thoughts. He said, well, maybe they did see something.